Hello, hello, hello. Jordan Chariton live. A little bit after 5 o'clock Eastern. Status Coup, January 16th, Martin Luther King Day. And joining me is Zaina Day, independent journalist, doing God's work. Bullhorn, right?
Bullhorn a bulletin. Yes. I
Yes.
almost said the wrong name.
We'll promo better when we have more people. Ty will be joining for your Status Coup OGers. Tommy Bayliss will be joining in a little bit. He actually has a tattoo of MLK with quotes from MLK. So obviously, he's a great person to talk to today on Martin Luther King Day. We are going to talk about the media's, let's just say, selective representation of MLK's legacy. So looking forward to Ty joining us in about a half hour. We got other topics to discuss. We're going to start with the world's who's who, the global elite who have been restrained for the last 2 years. They were not able to go to Switzerland in person for Davos to, rescue all of us and forge a strong, equal economy. They were not able to do that. They had to do virtual Davos the last 2 years. Well, they are back in Davos this year. And very interesting. The folks who are meeting with private CEOs today in Davos, Swooning. So we're going to reveal some of that. We also have AOC. I try not to be gratuitous and just bash AOC for the hell of it. But I looked at her Instagram today, and what she's putting out there is just so mind-numbing and frustrating and outrageous that we have to address. We have to address and bring the ruckus to AOC. We will definitely call out the squad when we need to. Actually, if you don't know, last week, while who are you on? I'm trying to. Oh, is that Ron and Tina? While I was holding my newborn baby on one shoulder, I was going through AOC's Instagram, finding those clips that Ron and Tina responded to. So I've been dissecting AOC's Instagram for about a week. So we're going to get into, I guess this is something much different than bringing the ruckus to the Democratic Party. What else? We got that, MLK. Oh, and some promos for stuff that's coming up. Very exciting things coming up, including on-the-ground reporting that we're going to be doing soon. So look forward to sharing that. Please smash the like button, share this live stream. If you haven't noticed, the numbers here on YouTube have been a little unkind to us recently. I think there's a lot of reasons for that. I could get into it, but we all know the reasons. First off, it seems that YouTube has changed its algorithm for the 25th time within the last year. And they're burying independent media even further than was already buried. They are now pushing long form content. So we're going to try and be live for as long as possible, Zaina, but also shorts. So if you noticed on your homepage, on the Status Coup homepage, you have a video tab, a live tab now, and a shorts tab. And I think shorts is a different algorithm. So we're going to be doing a lot more shorts because apparently YouTube is really pushing shorts heavy duty. So we're hoping if we do more short content, which is a minute long, that will boost us in views and help get people over to the longer form content. That's the hope. So make sure when you're on our homepage, start getting in the habit of checking the shorts column. A lot of it will be original content, not just cutting stuff from the live stream. So Lewis, we just posted like 3 or 4 shorts, Zaina, from Lewis.
And it's things you're going to want to know. And we actually have a segment called, what's it called? If you didn't know.
I bet you didn't know.
Bet you didn't know. And it's going to be important facts about legislation or statistics, things like, housing, unemployment rates, even financial information, actions and organizing that are going on, upcoming snippets of on the ground work that we're going to be doing, and showcasing bits of interviews that we're doing that are important to showcase. So yeah, be sure to check out and check out some of our shorts we've got coming up. We're also going to be circulating some of our older content you may have missed about important stories that are still relevant to this day, such as, you know, Jackson, Mississippi, their water systems are still broken. So keeping that at the forefront of people's minds, it's not a one and done issue. Some of these issues keep rolling even after the media has stopped paying attention to them. So Status Coup wants to keep that in the forefront of people's minds.
Absolutely. And automation. I don't care if you hate shorts. Watch it. If you like us, watch it. And actually, you might like these because we're not just going to do like 1-minute cat videos. We're going to do like substance. I mean, we might do some cat videos if it gets us views. But right now, we just got to get new eyeballs to the channel. We're combating with suppression and a lot of whole other things. So as always, smash that like button. If you've noticed, we're not sending out the text that we were sending out. Long story short, it's like $600 a month. And right now views aren't good. So we kind of put it on pause because we could only afford what we could afford. So 5 o'clock Eastern, put it in your calendar, Monday through Friday, 5 o'clock Eastern. A couple public service announcements. I'll be real quick, and then we're going to get to the first topic. I'm going to, as much as I can with a newborn and writing a book, I'll be back live Mondays, Tuesdays, 5 o'clock Eastern. Obviously, I'll be live when news breaks, like I was last week earlier in the day on the Biden classified documents. But our schedule, for the most part, is going to be me Monday and Tuesday with Zaina. Wednesday, Kim Brown at 5 o'clock Eastern. Thursday, Ron and Tina at 5 o'clock Eastern, followed by Tina's show, The Right Wing Insanity Report. And Friday, I will also be back, probably with some rotating co-hosts on Fridays. And we're probably going to experiment coming up soon with some other shows after the main live stream. So 5 to 6 would be the main live stream. And then some other shows from 6 to 7, starting with on Wednesday, I believe, Ty is going to be on at 6 o'clock Eastern. So that's the PSA. We'll probably send it out at an email so you can mark it down, the schedule. Secondly, we're doing a major fundraiser weekend in 2 weekends from now. So Saturday, the 28th and the 29th, 12 o'clock Eastern to 3 o'clock Eastern. A lot of rotating guests: Marianne Williamson, Nina Turner, Christian Smalls, Frances Fisher, the actress, Stephen Donziger. I've reached out to a bunch of other people. Oyeme, I forgot her last name. Apologies. Chuck Modu. What's his last name?
Chuck Modi.
Chuck Modi. So we're going to have some big names and a lot of other people try to fundraise for more on-the-ground reporting and cover a lot of great stuff. Zaina will be on, I think Ron and Tina. So look forward to that. Put it in your calendar.
Olemi Oloren. And
Oh,
she's amazing. She's an attorney that knows about the bail bond system, criminal justice system. She's, you know, all of these guests, we're going to be talking to them about, you know, what happened in 2023, also what looking forward to things in 2024, as well as potentially breaking.
Well, we can't really talk to them about what happened in 2023 since 2023 is only 15 days long. But yes,
the presidential election is already in my brain for 2024 because that's what everyone's talking about. So I keep pushing us up a year.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be fun. You know the drill. We'll talk politics and a lot of other things. And lastly, if you could be so kind, we really need you. Please, if you can, if you're recovered from Christmas and Hanukkah and anything like that, super chats are really appreciated. Money has been tough recently. Hey, what you see is what you get. We're still doing on the ground reporting. I got mouths to feed. Colin, Zaina, Ron, Tina, Kim. Sorry, I'm up 3 times tonight now, so my brain's not always functioning. We got mouths to feed and Lewis and on the ground reporting. So please support us, statuscoup.com/join as a member or leave a super chat. All right. So,
one other thing. Also join our Substack for updates because we mentioned, you know, the text, but we're also putting out our regular videos on Substack. We're going to be doing some more in-depth investigative pieces, maybe on campaign finance and other things. So please check us out on Substack as well, and you can sign up for memberships there also for updates and regular notifications of our videos, since those notifications aren't coming across the Chiron on YouTube. If you want to hear about them, Substack's a great way to get notified about content we got coming up.
Yes. And not only can you get original content, but you'll get a notification before we're going to go live because, Zaina just sent out an email before we were going live. So all good things. I think that's everything. If I forgot anything, and share this live stream, smash the like button, all those good things. So I want to start with this before even getting to Davos. I think this sets it up pretty well. Colin, if you could put up President Biden's tweet, because it's more of the gaslighting on what a wonderful, strong economy we have. So this was Biden, I believe, yesterday. My plan is growing our economy from the bottom up and the middle out, creating hundreds of thousands of good-paying jobs and lowering costs. Text me at some number so I could keep you up to date on how we're delivering in your community. Zaina, I believe since you've been a part of marketing, fundraising, that text number is probably just like a text list so that they could send you fundraising requests?
Yep. I mean, I don't know. I haven't tried it, but that's usually the gimmick that I would try to avoid when I did marketing for candidates. But that's some of the shady stuff that's done. And coming from the president's office, that's a lot. Because it almost sounds like Biden himself will be getting back to you on these issues. It's right. It's a bit much.
Yes. So make sure to text that number and somebody will sniff your hair. All right. Well, this is the actual economy that Biden has left out. I always like showing this chart. So that's since the 1980s all the way. I think that goes to like 2018. I'm sure it's even worse now than it was in 2018. But yeah, that's the economy Biden's talking about. That's the economy, CNN, MSNBC, CNBC, they like to frame, and they don't use this in their labor reports or the Friday job number. They use the unemployment number, which is to me, BS, GDP, the stock market, as you correlate these two graphs. Obviously, that top line is the wealth going to the top 1%. The bottom is the rest of us. We should also note rate of unionization declining since the mid 80s through 2020. So it's all correlated. But
and we don't have a graphic for this, but the rate of retirement and benefit packages, along with the rate of unionization, has gone down drastically. While the poverty line, we do have a story coming out about this week, the poverty line has remained basically unchanged. So now people can't get they can't get a Medicaid card like we used to be able to for our kids. They can't get grants for colleges. That poverty line is at a level where no one can. An individual makes $13,000 a year, just one person, or if they have a family with kids, $17,000 is the poverty line. And then for a medical card or for help, you have to work. So anytime they talk about the economy, just like Jordan just now said, they're not taking into account that the Bureau of Labor and Statistics only takes data up, for instance, for unemployment up to 6 months. They don't consider that many of the jobs that are being hired out right now, when they say the job market is great, and I'm sure you guys are feeling this in your communities, a lot of the jobs that are available in the job market are either gig work or temp work with no benefits and no guarantee, with constant layoffs. So there's no job security, there's no housing security, and we're basing whether the economy is doing well or not on how padded billionaires' pocketbooks are.
But his plan's working. Zaina. Don't worry.
Yeah, he's doing. Even the squad are giving him an A on this. So
Pramila Jayapal, I think a couple months ago gave him an A+. So yeah, even better. But I wanted to set that up because as Biden, tries to market his plan, and obviously he's got the classified documents thing going on, which I talked about last week. The who's who of the job creators. The so-called job creators are meeting and at the Davos World Economic Forum in Switzerland, having delightfully gourmet chocolate and screwing the rest of us. This is from CNBC. Manchin, Sinema, and Chris Coons meet with CEOs at private Davos luncheon for the World Economic Forum. So you all know who Manchin and Sinema are, but Chris Coons, if you don't know, is kind of like the Senate version of Biden, or like the heir apparent to Biden. So when Biden was elected vice president, he kind of blessed Chris Coons to be his replacement. Zaina, if you remember, this was the guy who beat the I'm Not a Witch candidate, Christine O'Donnell. I think that was her name, Christine O'Donnell, back in 2010. So Chris Coons took over for Biden in the Senate, and he is basically Biden reincarnated, just a little younger, a corporatist, a friend of the banks, a friend of the credit card companies, but, you know, talks kind of like a lunch bucket guy. But I thought this was interesting. Let's see a little bit more about these meetings. U.S. lawmakers quietly took part in a private ritzy lunch atop the World Economic Forum on Monday, featuring dozens of influential business leaders. Lawmakers in attendance included members of the U.S. congressional delegation taking part in the annual confab for the elite and wealthy in Davos, including Manchin, Chris Coons, Kirsten Sinema, and a few members of the House of Representatives. Republican Governor Brian Kemp also attended. Coons, Manchin, and Sinema and Kemp are among the U.S.-based officials scheduled to participate in panels this year. These private events on the sideline of the World Economic Forum often serve as meet and greets between CEOs, billionaires, and government officials. Coons and Manchin are each separately addressed the crowd of corporate leaders at the lunch, said one attendee who declined to be identified. Coons discussed U.S. aid to Ukraine following Russia's invasion, while Manchin, who's the chairman of the Senate Energy and Natural Resources Committee, called for American energy independence, of course. Congress passed $40 billion in additional aid to Ukraine last year. The private lunch was held at Hotel Schalps, which is primarily accessible by riding a funicular or tram up the property, those with knowledge of the gathering. All right, I don't want to nauseate anyone, but these are the who's who in banking, in finance, private equity, big tech, big pharma. Pretty much every industry that's screwing you is up in the Alps right now in Switzerland. And Manchin, Sinema, and Coons are having private confabs with them. I want to just play this clip. This is an author who wrote about Davos, so you kind of know more about what goes on and what Davos actually is. If you could play that, Colin.
What inspired the book is the reality that, as you quite correctly report, we are in the middle of a global emergency. And it's an emergency, I'm of course referring to the pandemic, that has been extended, worsened, intensified by the reality that a handful of people, the billionaire class, the people I refer to in the book as Davos man, which comes from attendees of the World Economic Forum, you know, this glittering gathering of the most powerful, wealthy people on earth. These are the people who have rigged our system so that most of the wealth flows in their direction at the direct expense of everyone else. And I think vaccines are a perfect example. I mean, it's well and good that in Davos, they're talking about vaccine inequity, just like they talk about climate change and gender imbalance and systematic racism and voting rights and all sorts of other super important issues about which they not only do very little, I mean, they put out some great reports, but then they go home, these participants, and they commence the battle to protect their privileges, to prevent actual redistribution of wealth. You know, the forum convenes under the mantra, committed to improving the state of the world, which is a handy phrase that connotes change. These are the ultimate beneficiaries of the status quo. And if you look at the fact that we have frontline medical workers going to treat COVID patients in places like South Asia and Africa while we're boosting children in the United States, you know, that sort of tells you everything we need to know, because we've accepted one of the key talking points of Davos, man, that we either affirm the system we've got, where pharmaceutical executives get to sell their vaccines to the highest bidder. They monopolize the gains of publicly financed research for their own benefit. And the result is this gaping, lopsided distribution that is not only a humanitarian catastrophe, it's a catastrophe even for people in wealthy countries, because it's an open invitation to the Omicron variant. We are paying the monopoly royalties for vaccines to companies like Pfizer through our closed schools and disruption to our children's education, through death, fear, and hits to economic livelihood.
By the way, that clip is from a year ago, so talking about Omicron and all that, that was from a year ago. But it kind of still applies. I mean, basically what he's saying is this whole conference where they have these high-minded, grandiose conference panels is all smoke and mirrors, and it's just the aristocracy meeting to plan how we're going to fucking consolidate everything for the next year ahead, how we're going to rig the system further and make it look like we actually care about the climate crisis, you know, global economic equality, you know, yada, yada, yada. Your thoughts, Zaina?
Well, you know, I always think when I look at Davos that they're not bringing the regular people in to talk to them or hear from them. They're not ever bringing in activists. They're not bringing in organizers. They're not bringing in people that handle the crises on the ground. I think, well, since today is MLK Day, you know, and that's on the forefront of everyone's minds, that his quote, we all too often have socialism for the rich and rugged free market capitalism for the poor. That's exactly what Davos is. It's setting themselves up, just like you said, and just like, you know, was mentioned in the video, Goodman mentioned in the video, that they're literally setting it up so that they can maintain their hegemony and so that they can maintain, you know, shift the markets, come together, price gouge. What was it? 4 years ago, we learned that they were, you know, price setting the price for oil at Davos. So that they're coming together, you know, setting prices for their market shares to ensure that they make the highest possible bottom dollar line for themselves. And, you know, they play it off as this is a humanitarian event where they're talking about all of these issues that impact, you know, the poor people. It's the ultimate reflection of the inauthentic philanthropic class. Right. Absolutely. They give us a little bit of breadcrumbs in order for us to feel like they're helping. It's a PR stunt. Davos is a PR stunt where on the back end, they have a chance to meet, talk to each other, whisper in each other's ears, and make plans on how they're going to exploit us the best in 2023.
Absolutely. And keep those super chats coming. We're going to read them in a little bit. I want to read from this article because I think it actually sums up what Davos is. And by the way, don't sleep on the fact that Senator Chris Coons is there. The reason I brought him up in particular, he's kind of like Biden's whisperer. I would say he's like an emissary for Biden there. So whoever Chris Coons is talking to, trust me, the people talking to Chris Coons knows that he has Biden's ears. When I say people, I mean the CEOs across all the donors that are talking to Senator Chris Coons. They know that he is Biden's BFF. He is the senator from Delaware. He succeeded Biden. I should also mention, just so happens, Cinema, Manchin, Coons. You know what they have in common, Zaina?
Big oil, big gas, and corporate ties to a lot of money wrapped up in corporate portfolios.
Correct, but also this is the Hill. This is the Hill article, Colin. They are 3 of the 8 Democrats who voted no on Bernie Sanders' $15 minimum wage amendment. You remember that?
That's right.
As part of the COVID, the CARES Act, Bernie tried to put an amendment through that got a vote for a $15 minimum wage. And Manchin, let me read them so we could just have this hall of shame. You got Manchin voted against it. Sinema voted against it. Senator Jeanne Shaheen of New Hampshire voted against it. Maggie Hassan voted against it. She just won re-election. She beat the guy, the crazy guy who said that kids are going to school dressed as cats and pooping in litter boxes. That's who she was up against. So she won. Senator John Tester, Senator Tom Carper, another Delaware. So 2 for 2, and Coons, and independent Angus King. So yeah, 3 of them voted against the $15 minimum wage, which at this point, let's just be on the record. I don't know your thoughts. To me, is untenable. I don't even think we should bother with advocating for a $15 minimum wage. You can't even live off of that right now, a $15 minimum wage, unless you're in, really low income, more rural areas. A $15 minimum wage in most places, you're going to be getting by at the real, barely on a $15 minimum
The
wage.
average cost of a 2-bedroom apartment is now $1,900 a month.
There you
That's
go.
just for housing alone.
Exactly. And by the way, even if they got past the $15 minimum wage today, which they're not going to, remember, it's staggered. It doesn't happen right away. It would be staggered over many years. So if they passed it today, we're 2023, I believe you would then have $15 minimum wage in like 2026 or 2027. So it's completely inadequate. Even when inflation goes down, it's still very difficult to live. But I want to read this. This is that article from Unheard, Colin, how the Davos elite took back control. I'm going to start in the paragraph that says founded in 1971. If you could scroll down, I gave Colin a shit ton of articles, so I feel bad for him. Founded in 1971 by Schwab himself, the World Economic Forum is, quote, committed to improving the state of the world through public-private cooperation, also known as multi-stakeholder governance, also known as privatization. The idea is that global decision-making should not be left to governments and nation states, as in the post-war multilateralist framework enshrined in the United Nations, but should involve a whole range of non-government stakeholders, civil society bodies, academic experts, media personalities, and most important, multinational corporations. In its own words, the World Economic Forum project is to, quote, redefine the international system as constituting a wider, multifaceted system of global cooperation in which intergovernmental legal frameworks and institutions are embedded as a core, but not the sole and sometimes not the most crucial component. While this may sound fairly benign, it neatly encapsulates the basic philosophy of globalism, insulating policy from democracy by transferring the decision-making process from the national and international level, where citizens theoretically are able to exercise some degree of influence over policy, to the supranational level by placing a self-selected group of unelected, unaccountable stakeholders, mainly corporations, in charge of global decisions concerning everything from energy and food production to the media and public health. So I'm going to say it in the non-anti-Semitic way, because, you know, some people who like to talk about globalists, you know who they're talking about. I don't mean it like that. But this is a cabal of the global elite. It's not just like a 3-day conference. They're basically meeting constantly, just not in person. And this is basically the government. I mean, I say we live in the United Corporations of America. It's really the global corporations of America. And Zaina, I mean, look at what just happened in Brazil. I wasn't on during that. But the growing fascism that we're seeing in America, which I think is in many ways being enabled and emboldened by the neoliberal Democratic Party, I think they are bringing people to that fascism. We're seeing it in Brazil. We're seeing it in places like the Philippines. We're seeing it in many areas where you have this phony populism that's really just fascism is growing a big audience with people that are disenchanted with government, with the elites, with pretty much everyone that's meeting at Davos.
I agree. And we've been fascistic. This country has been fascistic for a long time. The Democratic Party are fascist. They would have never passed. Joe Biden drafted one of the most fascist bills that I can remember, and that is the crime bill. We're going to be talking about that later. And then you look at everything from the Department of Homeland Security, which both parties supported. You look at the corporate hegemony. You know, earlier, I think in our notes, but I'm not sure if we showed it, was where Chris Coons gets his money, and he gets it from corporations, but there was almost $1 million from leadership PACs. But what a lot of people think that money comes from the party, but it's about 200 to 300 different political action committees. And most of them are getting the bulk of their money from corporations.
Colin, can you put that one up? It's Chris Coons, Top Industries. Yeah, keep going.
So when the leadership PACs donate money to these representatives like Chris Coons, which is almost $1 million to him, they're pulling the strings. And each of these separate leadership PACs sometimes have separate alignments with specific corporations, right? So when you see someone like a Chris Coons or a Joe Manchin that are getting all of this money from leadership PACs, they're basically, these people are pulling the strings. They've been telling us that people act like it's some shadow government, Illuminati conspiracy that's hidden. But really, I watched the movie Glass Onion. I don't want to give any spoilers, so we'll not get into that. But the premise of the movie is that, it's a glass onion, so it's made to look like there's all these complex layers, but the center is right there in sight. And that's exactly what it is with these corporations. It's not a global conspiracy theory because they're telling us what they're doing. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's right out in the open, right in front of our faces. And it has been for the last 30 years.
Absolutely.
And I mean, it's been going on longer. It happened before the Industrial Revolution when you had the Vanderbilts and the Roosevelts and others who had massive amounts of money and, were exploiting workers. We're seeing it again now on a global scale as well. Colonialism never ended. Employee exploitation never ended, and now we're moving more and more to the right when we're already right wing. The Democratic Party is already right wing, but now we're shifting even socially even further to the right. And so that's the right wing culture wars that Tina's always talking about. There's always a new boogeyman. It's, M&Ms aren't sexy enough, or, migrants are the reason we don't have jobs, or the latest, hysteria about the LGBTQ community. Right. So there's always a new boogeyman to keep us distracted from the fact that they're ravaging us, and we are moving more and more into both economic and social fascism every day. We're already there. We're already a fascist country. So people that say, we're moving there, we have been. But it is getting worse, and so that can't be ignored. And both parties are part of that system, in my opinion. They sent Joe Manchin and Chris Coons to Davos, right? That came from the party leadership on who to send to Davos.
Yeah, totally. And by the way, if you look at Chris Coons, who again is basically Biden's like Senate representative, he's replaced Biden in the Senate. They're close. Look at that on his list: Young, Conaway, etc. That is lobbies and a lobbying firm. Skadden Arps, a political lobbying firm. Jane Street Capital, financial firm. Granton Eisenhofer, financial law. DuPont, poisoning quite a lot of people. Comcast owns MSNBC, NBC. Apollo Global Management. I have the article. I just nixed it out, had to settle, I think, for like $50 billion or $50 million a couple years ago for financial fraud. I mean, it's just a who's who of lobbyists, law firms, financial hedge funds. And this is basically Biden's wingman. So, yeah, I think Davos, it kind of can seem a little bit like high-minded. And how does this affect me? It affects you because this is where they go for their kind of yearly reset on how to screw you. And the way it's covered is kind of, they do panels. Oh, the climate crisis, by the way, they're all flying on private jets as they wax poetic about the climate crisis. And a lot of them, it's all smoke and mirrors. They'll give to charity to kind of atone for their sins. And then the media will then cover their charity. Like the media covers, Jeff Bezos did some housing for the homeless people in Seattle. Well, they're homeless because of Amazon. So that's kind of what you're seeing at Davos. I don't want to.
The latest controversy with gas stoves.
Yeah.
Whether you're electric or gas, right now you're burning coal to light our homes. Right. It's the same electric car argument, and also talk about a way to alienate poor people when the electric bills in some places are so high that gas is the only thing people can get to affordably heat their homes, especially in rural areas, and to keep their appliances running and to live. But this is what the out of touch Democratic Party and Republican Party elites and even the progressives want to talk about. AOC was just talking about this yesterday. And I'm like, you really want to wade into the gas stove controversy? This is Band-Aid, Ayn Rand, rugged individualism, environmentalism, when it's the corporations that are doing the polluting. They're the ones that are dumping, billions and billions of pollutants into our atmosphere, into our lands, through these pipelines, into our oceans. We can only make a small dent as individuals, but these corporations are the ones that have to be held accountable. And I feel like anything else is a distraction from that fact. And Davos is one of the places that this messaging comes from.
Right. Absolutely. I want to bring in Ty because, he'll call me names if I make him wait. My man, Tommy Bayliss on the mic. How you doing? Tommy Tahifi Bayliss, one of the OGs of Status Coup, was there with me on the ground in the early days, and kind of occasionally a host here on Status Coup when he feels like it. Happy New Year, my man.
Happy New Year, player. How you feeling, Doug?
I'm tired. I'm up 3 times a night with a newborn, but it's all love.
Is this your first week back?
This is my first day back.
It's your first day back.
Yeah.
How you feeling? New father? Every time I call you, bro, you got your baby in your hands. It look like you baby feeding. What's your wife over there doing?
She's
together
all day. I hope she's not watching. She'll smack you.
She know I love her. She know I love her.
Yeah. But we're going to have you on, talk about the media lies about MLK. But first, I know you have a feeling about AOC, and we need to get into AOC a little bit because I feel, Zaina, we've talked about this off air. Listen, it's kind of sport now on YouTube on the left to just go at AOC. It's not just her. There's a lot of others, but she's the easy target. I try not to unless I actually feel there's a reason to. I mean, it would be easy to do it every day, and it would be good for
Why
the
is she an
channel.
easy target?
Because she has the biggest following, because she's the one that said, I'm going to bring the ruckus to the Democratic Party. She gets the most attention.
So that part.
And she makes herself known by what she does, by her actions.
I would say that part. The things that she was saying before she came in, when nobody was paying attention to her. Remember, we gave her first interview. Yeah. We first interviewed her at Netroots.
Yeah.
First time that she got on, we did that.
I set that interview up, Ty.
Yeah.
Say it again.
I set that interview up, Ty.
Oh,
because
did you really?
Press director, and I wrote her messaging and her speeches, and I was coaching her on.
And let's just
people need back then.
let's pull the curtain back, because at the time, Zaina, you were with Brand New Congress, right? And I don't know if it was you or somebody said to me, yeah, she's really pissed because she's not getting enough interviews here at Netroots. So, even then, before she was a big name, there was a little drama. Anyway, last week, we covered, she was basically reacting to the House Freedom Caucus holding Kevin McCarthy hostage, like 15 rounds for the speaker vote. And most people on the left, not that they agree with those Republicans, but agreed with the strategy. Wow, they're actually like showing some spine, taking the heat, taking the media heat, taking the heat from the Republican leadership, and they're holding no prisoners to get concessions. And they got some serious concessions. Well, AOC, we covered her response to that, which was kind of like a scholarly, let me sit you down, kiddo, and explain why that's not the way of going about it. So
that's the cold part right there. I think that's the same reason why motherfuckers had their feelings when they were doing a protest for Amazon, and she didn't show up until all the cameras was there. When they was trying to reach out to her a long time, you can't just pop that shit as if you're that person that's going to ride for us no matter what. Like, the people matter more than me being in this position that I will get fired by riding for y'all. If she didn't put that out there, no one would have that expectation. This isn't unrealistic. This is what she said. Now we holding her to her word, but now she's friendly. She didn't got
her district.
Huh?
Chris Smalls was in her district. They were fighting in her district too. So it's not like they were asking, and she should, but it's not like they were asking her to go across the country. They were asking her to come and support labor in her district with the constituents she's supposed to support.
And can I just say, I am asking you to press that goddamn like button. We got almost 200 people watching, but not enough people have pressed the like button.
Come on, y'all, get it together,
please, man. Smash that like button. Share this live stream. Super chats are appreciated. So, Ty, Zaina, I want to play this clip.
See me on here. Press the like button. Let's go up. Look,
And Ty, if he feels like it, is going to host Wednesday, 6 o'clock Eastern. Wednesday, 6 o'clock.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's
you
going to be
can't change.
Tuesday or Wednesday. We got to see the schedule.
It's going to be Wednesday, 6 o'clock. So AOC, I looked at her IG, and I'm kind of expecting, I don't know, I'm not expecting her to like call for the revolution. Obviously, she's not doing that. But I'm kind of expecting, I don't know, something useful when she does IG videos. Colin, let's play this. I headlined it Birds and the Bees. To be clear, it's not like that. I just called it because it's kind of lecturing. But let's play this clip.
Birds and the Bees? That's a dumbass title if she's not talking about that. That's what everybody's going to think. You crazy. Go ahead.
Well, I'm tired and whatever. Anyway, Ty, listen to this, and I want to get your reaction and Zaina's reaction if this is what you're expecting she was going to be doing.
So let's talk about how members of Congress get assigned to their respective legislative committees. Now, in case you don't remember from your Schoolhouse Rock days, the way that a bill becomes a law requires a bill to be referred to a House committee. So let's say you submit your bill, it gets submitted to that committee. If it passes if the bill passes from its committee, then it can go to the full House or the full Senate for a vote. The committees range from a wide amount of topics, from science and technology to education and labor, financial services, ways and means, energy and commerce, House oversight, or etc. There's a lot. And the selection process is internal. There's a specific committee. The first committee is known as Steering and Policy. And each political party has a steering and policy committee that is comprised of members who decide and ultimately sometimes vote on which members get assigned to other committees. So it's a highly internal process. Now, of course, that begs the question, how do you get on that first committee, the steering and policy committee? And each party has their own rules, but it usually comprises the leadership of each individual party. So the committee chairs of each committee, for example, are on steering and policy. Now, internal decision-making means internal politics. And committee assignments can be highly subject to internal politics. And that doesn't mean the kind of external politics that you see on TV. In fact, a lot of that politics plays out of view from public sight. But some of the things that are considered in that internal politics.
Okay. I can't really take much more of that. You guys first. Did that get you excited that the ruckus is coming, that scholarly lecture on how you get a committee seat?
You can go first.
Zaina, you go first.
Zaina, I'm sorry.
You cut it off at the point. She goes on later to tell us, she literally tells us why holding a vote for chair can have an impact and how you can do that to get concessions to get committee seats. A little bit of history that people don't know. In 2018, when I was working, people, everything changes every 15 minutes, right? So we often forget about things that happened before. But in 2018, going into 2019, in November of that year, brand new Congress and a few other organizations nominated Barbara Lee to be Speaker of the House when she was running for the head of the DNC. Remember that? And instead of putting Barbara Lee in, they put Jeffries in, who they now made Speaker. So they already had him set up because they always got their picks, right? Of course, they weren't going to put Barbara Lee, who's against the AUMF and is against the crime bill. And, she actually does decent things sometimes, but she does bend to the party whims too. But they weren't going to put her as the head of the DNC, and they didn't like her being nominated. But outside pressure came in, and 23 people held the vote on Pelosi that year. 23, progressives or, Democrats held the vote on Pelosi. You know what happened? What happened is AOC was put on the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform and the Committee of Finance Services. Ilhan Omar was put on the Committee on Education and Workforce, House Committee on Budget, Committee on Foreign Affairs. Rashida Tlaib was put on the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform and Committee on Finance Services. Now, that first year in 2019, they brought some heat in those committees. They actually made watching C-SPAN kind of interesting for a bit, right? Because they were holding Big Pharma accountable. They were doing some good shit, which now, once Biden won, all that was off the table, right? And we haven't seen anything since then. It's been nothing from them except for Biden gets an A+ and let's toe the party line. But at that point, they were still doing some of that work, whether it was, pageantry or not, I don't know, but I just know they were doing that work. So we proved in 2019 that holding a vote works, that forcing a vote works. They got concessions in 2019. People never talked about the fact that it just happened the session before and the concessions were made. So then AOC at the end of this goes on to basically, this whole thing wasn't, I liked when she first got in and she was teaching people how it works behind the scenes because no one talks about that. But this wasn't that. This was her using this to make some damn excuses for why they were kissing Jeffrey's ass and why they were towing the party line. You go ahead, Ty. It makes me so angry.
I was just about to ask you, is this, because I remember her always being on live initially when she first got in the office, but I did remember her teaching a few, but I was about to ask that question. Is this what she normally did when she went live? It would make sense. But to me, it seemed like this was an excuse. You're trying to justify why, and there's no justification unless you, but I mean, the only justification really is just that you want to keep key. You done got close to Nancy. Y'all cool now. Everybody's good. It's human nature. You get close to people that you don't like from a distance, they may turn out to be good people. They may have fucked up policies or whatever. And that's what you did. You didn't keep your main goal in mind, which is to ride for your constituents. And it's exactly an excuse. That's all it is. You're trying to explain yourself because you feel condemned, like she feels condemned. And she trying to save face to act like, well, this is what has to happen. No, you trying to have a career in there. You trying to do what Nancy did and be there 20 or 30 years instead of riding it out. And if your constituents, you're riding for your constituents. So you can get put in office. You remember, the DCCC didn't fundraise for you. Idiot. They didn't want you in there initially. So you don't need to worry about them and who you need to be friends with.
I will also, Ed, if you don't know, recently just how things work, Hakeem Jeffries, who just became the majority leader for the Democrats, he'll be the speaker when Democrats retake the House. He promoted Pelosi's top advisor to lead the super PAC for the Democratic House. So basically, passing the torch just meant Hakeem Jeffries hiring Nancy Pelosi's top aide to be the chief fundraiser. But I digress. I got several problems with that little monologue that AOC gave. Number one, I don't fucking need you to explain to me how committee assignments work. I know how it works, but even to someone who doesn't know how it works, that's not why people knocked on doors for you. That's not why people volunteered for you. That's not why people gave you money. And I know because I covered it. She had, you're talking probably thousands of like 18 to 23-year-olds knocking on doors for her in Queens. They didn't support you for like what's that video that we watched in school? I'm just a bill.
What is that? Do it yourself? A DIY?
No,
video?
Yeah, it's the I'm just a bill. Rock. Yeah, Schoolhouse Rocks. I'm just a bill. I'd show it, but we'd probably get copyrighted. Nobody enlisted you to educate us on how things become a bill or how you get a committee assignment, this and that. What you should be doing, and we'll get to their refusal to force the vote in a second. What you should be doing is you should be doing IG videos on how people could organize in their community economic boycotts. What you should be doing is how people could organize in their community mutual aid. What you should be doing, because you sold yourself as an activist, what you should be doing is how people can organize now. And you should be elevating stories like the one we covered last week, Tyler Lewis. I don't know if you know about that, Ty. All the attention right now is on the Idaho students that were killed.
Yeah.
And they should, obviously that should get attention.
Yeah.
There's a 19-year-old black student at Buffalo State College was stabbed to death in October. The district attorney told his mother, stop calling. The campus police. The campus police is investigating. They won't give the mother any answers. This is a 19-year-old black kid stabbed to death. I think they know who stabbed him to death, but all the white kids lawyered up. No media coverage, no nothing. That's in New York. I'm not saying it's all on AOC and she needs to do everything, but you have a massive platform and you're using your IG videos to explain to us in the weeds intricacies of how people get on a committee. And you're right, Zaina, I probably cut it off before she twisted herself again to make excuses about why they're not making demands of the Democratic establishment. And my other problem with her and the squad, it's not just about that they're not willing to hold out their vote. They're not willing to play hardball. That is a main problem. But my other problem, I kind of similar to Bernie, similar to Obama, who we all got hoodwinked by. They all build these massive organizing networks. And you know, Zaina, because part of your job in the past has been tapping into those organizing networks. Obama built at that time in 2007-08, the largest digital organizing network in the country. And what did he do? He sold out to Wall Street and he left that network just at the altar. He didn't tap into that. Bernie, we all could have our criticism of Bernie. I don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I appreciate
you
what
threw
he
it out
has
with
done.
Obama. You threw it out with Obama. Throw it out. He's a sucker too. He wanted to be friends
Bernie,
with everybody.
We're not going to compare Bernie to Obama.
That's why Bernie didn't go against Biden, because he wanted to be friends. He didn't want to say Biden talking about him all day. He wouldn't say, that's my friend. Every time before I say something, we've been friends for 30 years. Knock it off.
Yeah, but just objectively, you can't compare Bernie to Obama. It's not even in the same universe.
We're talking about selling out, bro. That's what we're talking about.
I think Bernie.
Sold out in different ways.
Think Bernie has left his movement essentially at the altar. And what I mean by that is Bernie said, hold your nose, vote for Biden, and we'll fight him on day one. That's what he said. We'll fight him on day one. We'll fight to move.
All told us.
We'll fight to move him left.
Push Biden left, even though he said nothing would fundamentally change. And then they all fell and towed the party line. There's a little bit of numbers that I took down before we started. AOC's talked about Medicare for all in 2022 two times. 2 times. You know what she did when it came to immigration? She said that Biden was better than Trump, and he has evoked Title 42. The border is no better. He's still separating families. He's still following that Obama deporter-in-chief mantra. Nothing has changed on the border. He is no damn better. And now he's blocking out people from coming in from Nicaragua and Haiti, which we're on the ground ravaging right now. And she's not said a damn word about any of this. She's reeled back on abolish ICE. Now she's saying ICE might be necessary.
But
so she's completely abandoned her fundamental principles that got her into office and the policies and platforms that she ran on, knowing that Queens, what got her into office in the first place is it is the lowest voter turnout anywhere in America. She only needed 16,000 votes to win. Most of my candidates needed like 125,000 to win. She only needed 16,000. People don't show up at the polls, so she can kind of skirt through. Because there's less heat on her, and she's just towing the party line. But Bernie's towing the party line. They're all towing the party line.
But to me, separate from their unwillingness to force a vote, I'll get to that in a second. The problem is, when she did her little thing protesting at the Supreme Court when they overturned Roe v. Wade. Okay, yeah, nobody's going to criticize her for that, but that's easy. Why didn't you tap into your, whatever it is, 15 million Twitter? I don't know how many she has now, but close to 14, 15 million. Why didn't you tap into those millions of followers on Twitter and Instagram? And obviously the squad would follow her. When Biden backed out of a $15 minimum wage using the parliamentarian as a bullshit excuse. They could have been in front of the White House. That was still during the worst of COVID. Grassroots activism, and they would have had thousands of people there. supporting them, agitating Biden and the White House to say, fuck the parliamentarian. Trump fired the parliamentarian. It's not an elected position. You ran on a $15 minimum wage and you need to deliver. They could have done that and they chose not to. They could have done that. And I blame Bernie for this too. A lot of people don't realize, and I'm not interested in getting into a debate about COVID for those of you in there who, think it's over, but to take patent from Moderna and Pfizer. He has the emergency health powers because we funded the research that led to those vaccines. We could have Biden could have taken over the patent and distributed the formula around the world, which would have not only saved millions of lives, but also stopped more variants from spreading and prolonging this pandemic. He won't do it because he's bought up by Big Pharma. The list goes on and on and on. You want to talk about police reform? He ran on police reform. They literally immediately neutered down the bill to get rid of qualified immunity. She could have raised the roof and got activists out for that. And not only is it morally right, it's effective. One of the first things she did as a congresswoman, I think even before she was officially a congresswoman, she joined the climate activists protesting outside of Pelosi's office. She joined that protest and she got media attention for it, got momentum, and Pelosi must have given her
committee seats.
And committee seats. So the point is, forget that this is like the right thing to do. This is what you ran on. This is what's effective in politics. The Freedom Caucus just showed you. They got actual concessions for holding them hostage. But the reason, Zaina, that she doesn't want to do it, and Ty, the reason she doesn't want to do it, it's very simple. And we saw it at the end of last year. Remember, for a short time, the Progressive Caucus did hold the line. They refused to vote for the bipartisan infrastructure deal, which was just a privatization scheme. It's not really, literally is selling our water sewer systems from public utilities to private corporations. But they held the line for months. They wouldn't vote for it until that the Build Back Better plan was voted at the same time. Then when Terry McAuliffe lost the governorship in Virginia, had nothing to do with the squad. It had nothing to do with progressives, but the media created this fakakta narrative that, it's because they didn't pass the bipartisan infrastructure deal. That's why Terry McAuliffe, by the way, the best friend of the Clintons, that's why he lost to Glenn Youngkin. It's not why he lost, but the media started raging against the squad. They started, the progressives holding out. That's why the Democrat lost. They felt a little bit of pressure and they folded like cheap tents. So at the end of the day, yes.
I know them, Jordan. That's not fully it, but a little bit.
Tell me what I got wrong. Go ahead.
Pop your shit.
Y'all want to know my secrets? I'm supposed to be here. There were some people that was real who ran. Anthony Clark in Illinois, he was real. Anthony's a real organizer. He was real.
When you say, I just want to explain for the audience, when you say run, you mean ran as Justice Democrats?
Well, as brand new Congress, because
okay.
There's a difference. Justice Democrats handpicks their candidates. They started a super PAC in 2019 or 2018. Brand new Congress and Justice Democrats split in part because we didn't want to have a damn thing to do with super PACs. That was supposed to be the mantra. Of course, brand new Congress has fallen away from our original promise to hold people accountable. But the way that brand new Congress worked is these candidates were nominated by their communities to run, and we would screen them and bring them in. Anthony Clark had something like 42 nominations because he was a school teacher and he ran mutual aid network there called Community. But AOC was handpicked by the Justice Democrats. I found that out later. She always wanted to be in politics. I wrote her bio. And she didn't tell me when I wrote her damn bio, when we were launching her campaign, that she worked for Ted Kennedy. She kept that on the down low.
Wow.
She wanted to say that she was a small business owner because she partially owned the damn bar. And I was new to this. So, I was still learning. And when I started figuring things out a couple years later, I was like, what in the holy hell? But my gut wasn't right about her. I'm going to tell you that because I'm poor. I'm from Appalachia. I get that feeling of when people are bullshitting me or they're neoliberals, talking down to me and stuff. You guys know what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. But she she hid the fact that she partially owned the bar. She told me this herself. People have said they haven't been able to find it. I'm just going by what the hell she told me. She told us that she partially owned it. And Corbin Trent told her, he said, say that you're a bartender. And I'm like, wait a minute. I was a bartender for 15 years and a server. There's a difference. He also said, say you're from Queens. Don't mention that you went to a private school, that you lived in the burbs. So here they were.
Wait. Hold on.
When you got a Cori Bush.
Damn, Zainab's got the dirt, Carne Verde says.
When you got a Cori Bush that was actually homeless, that, you know, had the police boot on her head in Ferguson when she was an activist there.
I went to jail with her.
Real deal. Huh?
I went to jail with her.
Did you?
Me and Jordan.
Did you both?
Yeah, we went to jail with her. Yeah, I spent a lot of time with Cori.
I don't know what happened to Cori. You know, I worked with her for 5 years. We were friends. I love her, like, as a person. And then I saw her at the Capitol steps when they were congratulating Biden with that weak-ass 90-day evictions moratorium when Cori had a badass housing as a human rights bill rolled out. She gave me political speak up there on the Hill. She had handlers around her. What I see happening is these people get into Congress. There's people on the back end that tell them this is for the greater good. You can play ball and make things work for the greater good. And then you've got others like an AOC who just wants to be in politics. She always wanted to be a politician, you guys. The bringing the ruckus, that other stuff, a lot of that was theatrics. I know, because I wrote the scripts. I wrote what to say. I'm the one who wrote the messaging as someone who's poor.
Zaina, why didn't you tell me this shit? I would have made the headline a little sexier. This is scoop. This is scoop after scoop. You lay in the dirt.
Sorry.
No, I think it's important though, because you, for those that don't know, Zaina, you were with Brand New Congress, and Brand New Congress and Justice Democrats were kind of sister organizations for a bit.
They were conjoined PACs, but then we did the PAC split when they created the super PAC because there was a split there. Justice Democrats wanted to focus on Democratic Party reform. The Brand New Congress people didn't believe that the Democratic Party could be reformed. We believed in, like, you know, running independents, some people had to run as independent under their name, but we really at the time wanted to run a lot more independents. We wanted to run third party candidates. We wanted to throw a wrench into the system. So there was the reform versus the fuck it all. Let's throw a wrench into the system. Let's get regular people nominated that have no political ties. Those were the two differences. So Justice Democrats was more along the lines of kind of playing political ball, and BNC at the time was wanting to raise hell and do we launched the Medicare. We helped launch the Medicare for All, the very first Medicare for All campaign in 2017. Then we launched the Abolish ICE campaign, if you guys remember that, and helped bring that nationally, which is one of the campaigns that I helped lead. So back then there were still, our Rev was still pretty salty sometimes, and then you had Indivisible that could be pretty salty sometimes. BNC was pretty salty sometimes. All these orgs have caved to the party when the squad caved to the party. And Jordan, because you covered it, I did a protest at AOC's office in July of last year or year before last, where,
did she see you?
Huh?
She wasn't there.
She closed her office, but I was also one of the first to call her out for giving money to corporate Dems, which she then unfriended me on Facebook and Twitter, which is fine.
That's why
I had pundits, I won't say who, messaging me in the background saying that me and Eva Pitsova were dividing the left because we exposed her giving money to corporate candidates. How are you going to give money to corporate candidates when we're trying to primary them and get them out of office? What the hell are you doing? That's a lie. If you're saying you're anti-establishment and you're giving all this money to corporate Dems.
You know what's crazy?
Can I just ask Zaina, because for the people that somehow claim that this channel or I am a stand for AOC, who was the only journalist covering that protest at AOC's office?
The one that Susan Sarandon was at, and we had Chris Walls at and others. It was you. It was Status Coup was the only people there.
Yeah. Anyway, go on, Ty.
You are a special human being. What was I saying? What was I saying? I forgot.
I don't know. I can't read your mind. She was saying, at the end of the day, listen, we could talk about force to vote and
Look,
go ahead.
I was gonna say that what you said that some leftists got at you about as far as like dividing the party. You know, this is the craziest thing I feel like about like the left, and that's that the same shit that they argue the right about, they do. Like, as extreme as they try to say the right is, and I'm not trying to say it, even some of the violence, but not even that, but that part right there, hiding shit. Oh, don't say that. Don't tell them that because it's gonna mess us up. The motherfucker shouldn't be doing it. Isn't this what she believe in? What do you mean don't bring it out? Why? You should want it out as much as I do. It's crazy to me, like the hypocrisy with both sides. They both get mad at each other, but they do the exact same things. It probably look different, but the intentions behind it are all the same, man. It's crazy.
They vote the same too. If you look at the squad's votes, you know, you look on the economic votes at the end of the day. Occasionally they don't, but you'll see that you'll see almost everyone in the Democrat and Republican parties at the end of the day, they vote on that ALEC legislation that comes across their desks. And they, you know, you've got AOC who voted on the Iron Dome funding, remember? They're all voting to fund this proxy war in Ukraine without any accountability of where the money's going. All of them.
Last thing I'll say before we get into Martin Luther King Day, I have a major problem that they won't force concessions, and I was for force to vote. I mean, I was for it then. We covered the rallies in DC. It wasn't a lot of people, but it was like, you know, still very bad in the pandemic. Thousands of people dying a day, but we covered it, and I still believe in it because it's not like a radical concept. If you look at like the United Kingdom, for example, like parliamentary systems, that's just the way business is done in their governmental bodies. Like certain wings, different ideologies within parliament hold their, refuse to vote for certain things unless they get concessions, and there's negotiations, and they hold out their vote until they get X, Y, and Z. This happens in Great Britain, in France, in other countries. That's basically what people were asking for. There's still time for them to do it, but it wouldn't be as effective now because the Republicans obviously have a narrow majority. It would have been effective when the Democrats had the narrow majority. And I believe the Democrats' majority was only 4 or 5 votes. So the squad plus Jamal Bowman, Cori Bush, Ro Khanna, Pramila Jayapal, Mark Pocan, they actually could have held up anything they wanted for 2 years. And you want to know something? I'll take, you know how to make a marketing campaign. I think you could make a hell of a marketing campaign and have a competing message for the media that's going to call you terrorists when you're saying, yeah, we're holding up the vote for healthcare. We're holding up the vote for a living wage. So take that and shove it. The people will be behind it. But as much of a problem as I have of them refusing to play hardball with the vote, I have a bigger problem that they have basically deserted their activist roots, because there is a whole, we're talking 40, 50%, I believe, of the Bernie movement, whatever that is today, that, yeah, they're pissed off at the squad for good reason. A lot of them are pissed off at Bernie, but they're deflated and they're looking for leaders to send them the bat signal, to tell them where to go, to tell them where to be in front of the White House, the Capitol, protests around the country, whatever the issue is. And I even think some of them would put past their disappointments, but they have chosen to basically leave their activism and just abandon it altogether, and therefore abandon the activist community in the left, because they could be leading protests on a variety of topics. They could be, a decade ago, there was continual protests outside Wall Street, Occupy Wall Street. That happened without 7 or 8 theoretically progressive congressmen. Okay, so they have abandoned the activists on the ground. Bernie, too, he still has a network that if he said, show up, we're going to protest Biden on X, Y, and Z. Of course, protest Republicans on certain things, too, because it's not just Democrats. They're basically, they've deserted the left and the need for activism and protest, and basically to get committee assignments and give fucking boring lectures on how to get a committee assignment, and why you guys covered it last week, why it's important that the Democratic caucus be united. It's it's absurd. And I would say, I'm a journalist, so I say vote however you want, but I would expect if they don't change, they're going to face actual primary challenges sooner, like from the left, not just like the Democratic Party trying to throw corporate candidates against them. I think they will face at some point real leftist primary challenges that are, and I think we need to do a better job as a progressive movement of vetting candidates, not just that they don't take corporate money, which at this point is obviously a must, not just that they share the policy values, but that they're actually have a strategic plan to exert power once elected. Because, it's not just enough, hey, I'm for Medicare for all too, or I have a nice life story. If you're not willing to actually go in there and play hardball and be hated, Shama Sawant said, if they don't hate you, you ain't doing it right. So smash that like button. I'll read super chats at the end. It is Martin Luther King Day. Obviously, this is the day that
that's why he got me on here with his racist ass. Go ahead.
Well, to be honest with you, I didn't want two white people waxing poetic about MLK, so that's true. But
Afro-Iranian here.
He ain't called me all week. I've been telling him
white, but I'm Afro-Iranian. My dad was black, but that's a whole other discussion.
I stand corrected.
I've been telling them all week. I've been trying to get in contact with him all week to talk about some shit. I ain't heard from him until today.
First of all, you haven't called me all week. Secondly, I texted.
I told you to call me.
I texted you yesterday.
When you get a chance.
I'm sorry. I got a crying baby all day. I'm on 2 book deadlines.
But you found time today, though. You had time today.
You're right. Thanks for calling me out. Well, I also called you to see if you could host another day and time. So, it's not all.
Oh, is that? Well, that's what I was having you call me. That's what we was going to discuss.
That's not. We'll talk about it.
That important to you. Martin Luther King is, though. Go ahead.
Ty, obviously it's important to you. You have a tattoo of MLK, for those that don't know. I don't know. To me, I certainly don't want to pretend to be like the expert, but I know enough to know the media likes to focus on I have a dream.
Can I say, hold on, before we start?
Sure.
As white women in my life, I'm going to need you to stop, please. I have this girl.
Oh, boy.
Let me tell you, this nothing ass heifer. She sends me a Venmo this morning, $5, saying happy MLK Day. I'm trying to do my part. When I tell you I cussed this heifer out, bro, what are you talking about? I sent her the $5 back. Like, who raised you?
Come on, man.
I'm trying to do my... Erica, if you don't stop. I ain't going to say your last name because you okay with me. But this is why you be pissing me off. Because that's dumb. Was that supposed to be reparations? Anyway, go ahead. White women, cut it out.
So I'm still in the T2 over here today.
So she sent you like money for...
Yeah, she sent me a VIN.
I don't know what I'm more offended by, that she sent you money or only $5. Like, that's your worth?
No, that she sent me money, dumbass. I don't want nobody. Ain't nobody ever told me happy Martin Luther. Shut the fuck up. Stop virtue signaling.
I agree. But if I'm going to send you money, like insensitively, I'm not going to send you $5.
Yeah,
like, what's that going to get you?
Stupid, bro. She's just stupid, homie. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not as upset because I know how slow she is. It's kind of funny, but it's absurd. It's crazy. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, bro.
Well, I feel better now based on all the insensitive things I've done when we're on the road together. So.
Hey, don't get me started.
So I wanted to ask, because I feel like the media basically does the I have a dream and, Martin Luther King's civil rights accomplishments. They don't often talk about why he was in Memphis when he was killed, what he was talking about when he not just when he was assassinated, but the last couple months, year of his life, the things he was talking about. They kind of leave out that part. They don't tend to talk about the FBI at all and what the FBI did with MLK. Zaina sent me this, Colin, if you have it. the 11 most anti-capitalist quotes from Martin Luther King Jr. And this was an article Katie Halper did on Common Dreams. But number one, I imagine you already know that I am much more socialistic in my economic theory than capitalistic. Started out with a noble and high motive. Capitalism started out with a noble and high motive, but like most human systems, it fell victim to the very thing it was revolting against.
You took the article off.
Did I? No. So today, capitalism has outlived its usefulness. So that was a letter to his wife, Coretta Scott. In a sense, you could say we're involved in the class struggle. That was a quote to the New York Times he gave. This is a speech at the Southern Christian Leadership Conference in Atlanta. And one day we must ask the question, why are there 40 million poor people in America? And when you begin to ask that question, you are raising questions about the economic system, about a broader distribution of wealth. When you ask that question, you begin to question the capitalistic economy. And I'm simply saying that more and more, we've got to begin asking questions about the whole society. I'm just saying he was assassinated when he started talking like this. He was not assassinated just for the civil rights discussion and, obviously really, really admirable and inspiring speeches. Your thoughts, Ty?
I mean, okay.
Don't clam up.
Yeah, well, no, because the thing is, yeah, okay. I think it was a multiple thing. Yeah, they don't talk about it because they don't agree with it. But I don't know if your argument is that they killed him because his message was more economic than social. I think it was both. I think it was his influence, period, overall, that they felt that they needed to get him out of the way because they knew that whatever it was that he wanted to push forward, that it was a good chance that it would go forward because of how much influence that he had. You know what I'm saying? I don't think that they started to zero in more because I don't think the economic part of his disposition was ever absent. I think he's always been for it because Black people always been at the low end trying to just get housing without rats and roaches or something that doesn't have a leaky roof. So I don't think his message has ever been absent without the economic part. I think what was happening is that when you're economically well and you have someone that's talking about a few things, the thing that's going to stick out the most is kind of the physical thing that's going to affect you right now in the immediate, and that's the integration of schools. That's allowing people to live in close proximity to each other as two different races, being okay with two different races, being together, getting married, and things like that. Those are the things that would seem immediate to anybody that's against all that, and that would kind of cover that. That would kind of like shadow the economic part. So maybe people didn't pay attention to it as much, but I don't think his message has ever been absent. The economic part has never been absent from his message, period.
I guess what I was getting at, not just him, but also Malcolm X and others. You look at COINTELPRO. I think I'm pronouncing it right. COINTELPRO.
This is mine.
Yeah.
If y'all can see it, it's Malcolm X and Martin Luther King.
Yeah.
And it's a man hanging from a tree. And it says, never take for granted the sacrifices made for you.
When did you get that? I know you've showed me before.
2008, 2009. It was right before I started at USC. So it was 2009.
I guess what I was getting at is you look at COINTELPRO, what they did to Malcolm X, Martin Luther King. When they talked about bringing white and Black people together, specifically, Martin Luther King talked about that. Malcolm X talked about that. And they talked about class. Obviously, they weren't for his talk on civil rights, equality. But I feel like particularly the FBI on Malcolm X, that's when their threat level got escalated in terms of these civil rights leaders. Not that they were for or okay with the civil rights movement, but I think when they were trying to bring together class between poor white people, poor Black people, to me, that is when the government, behind the scenes, the government infiltration, surveillance, hell, FBI sent a letter to MLK trying to get him to commit suicide.
Yeah, but how long did they filibuster the Civil Rights Act? Yeah, they didn't want it. For a long time. It took a minute before that passed. They filibustered the shit out of that motherfucker. I just watched a documentary on that like last year, and they really went in because I think it was like the same time around that those girls, they was pouring all that acid in the water, was getting the black girls up out of the pool and shit. It was all that was like around the same time and shit. But no, they filibustered the that bill for a minute before it got through. I'm talking about even longer. I'm not sure how long it was, but it was a while before it passed.
Right.
And MLK had started, he kind of started playing ball for just a little bit, you know, and then he came back around to his heat, you know, but it never fully left him. But, you know, he kind of left the letters from the Birmingham jail fire of, you know, we can't pick ourselves up by bootstraps if we don't have boots.
Yeah.
But today we're going to see all these damn tweets about, you know, the content of our character, you know, not the color of our skin, when it ignores the history that MLK was covering. He was calling for reparations when he was shot. He was calling for reparations. He was calling for the next step of anti-racist legislation, pro-black legislation, black empowerment. He was calling for that when he was shot. So I do hear this binary of, you know, it's because he was focusing on social issues and bringing white and black people together, which I don't disagree, Jordan. I mean, that's one of the reasons at the Battle of Blair Mountain, that's one of the reasons they were shooting people down there in Kentucky and West Virginia when we were, you know, when Appalachians were going up at the Battle of Blair Mountain, is because there was, you know, we were fighting for both economic and racial justice. But at the same time, the racism is just as much a part of why I believe he was killed as it was the economic. You know, I don't think you can't separate those two. People keep trying to separate right now, especially on the left. And I'm not saying that's what you were doing, Jordan, but Ty, you've probably seen this shit. There's all rhetoric right now trying to separate. They're trying to say it's a class struggle. We can't talk about identity politics. We can't talk about racism. We can't talk about sexism. We can't talk about misogyny. We can't talk about, you know, any kind of rights, because they're trying to boil it down to economic reductionism. And Martin Luther King was fighting for both, period, point blank. See, if you ain't black, you probably don't get it. Or if you ain't another motherfucker that had a hard time in this country, you don't get it. Because like identity politics, you got to understand, I get followed around the store because of my identity. I get pulled over when I see a police behind me. I take my hat off and act with the 2 and the 10 with my thing on because I'm black and I know how they feel about me. They're not wondering anything else but my color. My identity colors my experience in this country. So to try to like separate that, say no, we not on that. Like we got to be on that because that's what this country is. We have not been better than that. Period. This is what the country's been. Can't get redlining because of my identity. Can't get a small business loan because of my identity. Period. That's why other motherfuckers can come to this country from other countries and get small business loans, because it's about how they feel about me due to all the rhetoric that's been going on throughout the country, throughout the years of this country. So I know what they're doing when they try to take out identity politics and things like that. But when you do that, you ignore black people's experience, because motherfuckers, or even so you can think about like Mexicans, Salvadorians, anybody, you know, South American and that shit. Like, you think what's happening to them, what's going on is nothing, anything to do other than they motherfucking identity, bro. That's happening because of that. Because we get a whole lot of motherfuckers that come from Asia. I think even more that come from Asia, immigrants, than that come from South America. They don't say shit. We get a whole lot that come from Russia. What you think it has to do with why we zeroing in on them? Come on now.
Just the same shit with what happened when Trump first came in office and he knocked out all those countries that couldn't come in there. All of them looked the same, right? It was their identity. He didn't do Saudi Arabia. That's where the motherfuckers flew out of.
He did Iran. My family members, I had 2 of them was trying to come over here and they couldn't. You know, when I was little, I was 7 years old. We drove into the wrong town in Kentucky, I guess. You know, they pulled my dad over. They kicked out his back tail light. He had a little Corvette, a little like silver Corvette. We weren't rich, but that was like his baby, you know, it had some rust on it or whatever. But they pulled him over and, you know, they saw not only was he black, he was, you know, he had an Iranian last name, you know, he had a Muslim name. They kicked the shit out of him and kicked out his taillights so that they had a reason to kick the shit out of him and basically told him to not come back. And it's and the following around in the stores and everything. I remember, you know, my dad started stealing when I was younger because he got followed around so much. He was like, fuck it. I'm just going to take the shit. And he ended up in the prison industrial complex for 20 years. He almost died in there. And he died in a puddle behind a restaurant where he suffocated to death. So, you know, when people are talking about this shit of economics is decoupled from, they don't understand poverty. I'm Appalachian too. It's been impacting us here in Appalachia for hell and ever. It's not, there's no decoupling of the identities. You know, we're dumbass hick rednecks that don't have shoes and teeth, right? Nobody wants to hire us or give us a job. It's the same. It's not the same kind of thing. That's not what I'm saying at all. It's that where you're from and your zip code and the color of your skin does determine your economic circumstances.
Period.
And that is one of the
Period.
major points. MLK kept repeating that over and over and over again. And I think that's what got him killed.
Yeah. And you can't look at motherfuckers that wiggle through. It's a whole lot of people, yeah, they was able to wiggle through, but the vast majority is still in the shit. They still living fucked up. That's why you don't see a whole lot of people marching for fucked up water in Flint or seeing what's going on with any type of legislation that you feel like, damn, why black people ain't like, this is for them. Why they not doing it? Because I got to figure out how I'm going to feed my kids tonight. I'm going to figure out how to keep the light on. Shit is so bad. I can't even focus on nothing else because I got to worry about what's happening right now, day to day with my family. So I can't even get into all that other stuff that's going on over there. And it's because of my identity that I couldn't get along, that I was born poor because my father and them couldn't get along, or because maybe my father and them came up and they started making money, Black Wall Street, and then motherfuckers came and took it and tore it down. That was because of their identity. Period.
They got to have people working in these places to keep the engines running for them so that they can, you know, keep people pumping their gas or working in the factories or doing the low wage jobs. Yeah. So they keep us there.
I want to also just to clarify, I was talking about the media, how the media mainly focuses on the civil rights stuff. They tend not to want to talk about his economic legacy. But also,
are you saying it because like the mainstream media, as far as like the left and shit like that, like they don't? No,
CNN doesn't want. CNN doesn't want to talk about that he was out there for the sanitation workers. Yeah, they don't want to talk about. They also fail to mention his historic speech at Riverside Church against the Vietnam War. They leave that out.
As far as economics, the left and the right are on the same page.
Because to me, it's bothered me for a long time, particularly on the left. There's been this wing of leftists that say, no, it's not about race, it's about class. And you can't, I agree, you cannot separate the two. And most people who say it's not about race, it's about class are white people. Yeah. Those are most of the people saying that. I just want to share one story, which I think most white people who are in tune with themselves understand they have privilege. But when like I guess had the light bulb moment, I saw things in my life that showed inequality and racism. But I remember when we were arrested and they were putting on zip tie cuffs around most people. So they put zip tie cuff. They arrested the journalists first. It was me, you, and a couple other journalists they arrested. This was in St. Louis. We were covering a Black Lives Matter protest, and they arrested us for bullshit reasons. Anyway, they put zip ties around me, and then he the cop took like an effort to bring out real cuffs for you. And that's when I was like, holy shit. Because I looked around and the other journalists were all white. I'm white. And they had zip ties, but he brought real cuffs out for you. And that was just so, I hate to say it, I shouldn't have been surprised, but it was just mind blowing for me to see that.
And he was probably pissed off too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you said some things.
I was popping it. Because he clipped them things so tight. I almost apologized to the nigga. I'm like, oh, my bad, bro. He had them so tight. Because when you got handcuffs, what happens is, if y'all ever been arrested, I've been arrested a few. But the more you move, the more it tightens up. The more you try to move, it'll slowly tighten up. And if it's already tight when you move, I mean, it was like piercing through my skin by the time we got to the station. But I'll say this though. There's some truths, like two things can be true in the same time, right? Like it can be a class issue and a race issue. They both can be true because there are poor whites. But I think that the thing is, white people have been so comfortable with just being white that they even ignored the shit that was happening to them. They would ignore the shit that was happening to them to go against what black people was trying to fight for, even though the same shit was happening to them. But they were in their whiteness that they didn't want to try to relate to that. You know what I'm saying? And so it is a race thing. We're gonna shut you down, but we also gonna shut you down. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna manipulate them with their whiteness and say, but y'all, no, they're trying to take all the things we want to give y'all, they're trying to take it. So get at them. You know what I'm saying? So I think both of those things can be true. That is racism and classism, because poor whites get fucked over too. It's just that they've been so comfortable in their whiteness that they never really tried to fight for it, because we would fight for it and there would be more anti-nigga than they would be anti-government and trying to get their shit back. You got to think about it. The reason that September 6th was they did so much. And they felt like they can do whatever, because it ain't really been no time where white people had to like go and protest. If you think about the white protesters were all anti-black protesters. Anytime white people went out, it was to counter what black people were doing. So they didn't really they had a few, like the labor movement back during the turn of the century and things like that, but they didn't really have a life where they were always protesting. It was like their only protesters were anti-black, where they would go counter a black protest. So now when they're finally like, oh, they fucking our money over too, they overdid it and all that shit happened because they wasn't used to, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I promised my wife I'd only do an hour and a half because I got a newborn. So I want to sneak in. One.
Godfather.
Yeah, I want to sneak in something with Biden. Get your guys' thoughts. So Biden, obviously MLK Day, had to wax poetic. Colin, if you could bring up the clip with Biden saying the idea that we're supposed to remain silent.
The idea, if we can hold a second here, the idea that we're supposed to remain silent on the abuses of the past, as if they didn't occur, that's not being woke. That's being honest. That's talking about history.
So I think he's talking about.
He made a mistake. What are we doing?
What?
Oh, I thought you were talking about what he said.
No, I'm saying he's referring to critical race theory. And be it, what he said, I don't have a problem with. But I kind of have a problem because he's talking about let's reckon with the past and America's original sin. Let's not forget the Native Americans either.
Tell him to be the change you want to see in the world and give us some reparations.
But Colin, can we play?
They all talking.
Colin, can we play that? Can we play that same man in 2016 when asked about his crime bill?
Another thing about how perspectives change over time. Bobby Rush, member of Congress, said the other day, "I'm ashamed that I voted for the '94 crime bill." You ashamed of that bill?
Not at all. And in fact, I drafted
the CNBC clip.
I know that.
And by the way,
Pop it. Nigga, what? I wrote it. What you talking
Colin,
about? It's mine.
Colin, can you play it again? There was an issue.
Another thing about how perspectives change over time. Bobby Rush, member of Congress, said the other day, I'm ashamed that I voted for the '94 crime bill. You ashamed of that bill?
Not at all. And in fact, I drafted the bill, as you remember.
I know that.
And by the way, we talk about this mostly in terms of Black Lives Matter. Black lives really do matter. But the problem is institutional racism in America. That's the overarching problem that still exists. And we should be talking about it. And you look at it, the legacy of racism in housing and jobs and so on. But having said that, if you take a look at the crime bill, of the money in the crime bill, the vast majority went to reducing sentences, diverting people from going to jail for drug offenses into what I came up with, the drug courts, providing for boot camps instead of sending people to prison so you didn't relearn whatever the bad thing that got you there in the first place. Put 100,000 cops in the street. When community policing was working, neighborhoods were not only safer, but they were more harmonious. And when the reason why the cops originally opposed my 100,000 cops for this community policing piece is because it's high intensive and it means they got to get out of their cars. So they literally got out of their cars and learned who owned the local drugstore, the local neighborhood bar, whatever. And they were engaged in the neighborhood, which built confidence so that the woman, the African-American woman living in a corner alone where the drug deal's going down in front of her house knows she literally used to have your phone number as a cop. She'd call you and say, John, they're out in front of my house, but you're not giving me away, right, John? No. And it didn't. So we had enormous success. Now what's happened is we've cut the funding 85%. We've gone out there and we're going through Baltimore now. Look at the areas we're going through here. I'll lay you.
So, the man today who said we need to reckon with the past said, no, it was great. And it didn't create mass incarceration. It actually helped divert people. I could just anecdotally, I remember in 2016, I was down in South Carolina for the primary, and I went to a barber shop and interviewed the barber and customers and stuff. And they were telling me how the crime bill devastated their community, and it built 2 or 3 jails within like a couple miles. And that was just one area in South Carolina. I'm sure there were others.
Took fathers out the home, made people get they created a thing called the murder felony rule. Like I got 2 brothers, I got 2 brothers that's doing life right now. And both of them are in there for the same murder that they didn't do. I just got a homeboy that just got out 22 years. He got out in 2019 that he was in there for a murder that he didn't do. And the Innocence Project finally got him out. But he was in there since motherfucking 90. When last time I saw him in 97. So I think he was in there in 98 that he went to jail. So and that's just me. And I can tell you about some of my partners, like a whole lot of niggas has been in jail because of that crime bill and doing stuff just for not even, they didn't do those murders, but even non-violent charges like drugs, like, you know what I'm saying? If you ain't willing to reckon with what you did, but right then he probably was like, maybe he was like, I'm gonna run in 2016. I don't know. So he was just being political. But to say that, you can't, but that's the thing, right? When a motherfucker don't really believe nothing in their heart, they're gonna always say something different because this ain't really in their heart. This ain't really what they stand on. You know what I'm saying? So they're gonna say anything and then lie and say that they didn't say it. That's why we catch so many people in lies, because they operate. These motherfuckers been in Congress since the 80s, so they're not used to motherfuckers having cameras and be able to go back to them and be like, no, this is what you said right here. They can't hide stuff, but they're so used to lying and not being honest and not standing on their word, or not even really having anything that they're fighting for to actually mean something. Because the truth you don't have to rehearse the truth. It's right there. It's what happened, or it's how I feel. Yep. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, It means nothing to me. It means nothing to me. If you want to do something, be the change you want to see in the world, nigga. You the president of the motherfucking United States of America. You can sponsor a bill that has to do with reparations if you give a fuck about it, and then use your bully pulpit to pressure motherfuckers to go with it. That's on your side of the party.
And
But
he has
ain't
the
gonna
nerve. Yeah, he has the nerve to say that it's not that institutionalized systemic racism is the problem. The crime bill is one of the bellwether institutional racist policies of the modern era. I mean, it privatized the prison system. It expanded the bail bond system. It expanded the time served for drug crimes. He's bullshitting about how people got out earlier and they were reformation. Bullshit.
Yeah, that's bullshit.
It expanded the time people serve. It expanded and also it privatized our prisons. It expanded our police state. It created quotas for arresting people to fill up those prisons that the crime bill paid for.
Yep.
And they were targeting Black neighborhoods to do so, while at the same time they were putting drugs like crack cocaine out on the streets. The CIA was putting drugs on our streets to fill up the prisons that they just privatized. If that's not institutionalized racism, what the hell is? It's one of the most known and well documented. And then he gets in and then he gives all this leftover COVID money after he encouraged states not to spend the money, right? And I was like, I bet he's going to spend that money on the police. I bet he's going to use all that leftover COVID money. He's going to tell states to expand the police. What did he do? He told states, okay, let's expand the police. And then
some of those states some of those states use the money for new prisons.
Yeah.
Wow.
They've expanded the police state has been expanded and industrialized. Ty, check it out if you haven't. We've covered Stop Cop City. Maybe that's something that you could organize around. And they are actually building a helipad for Black Hawk helicopters down in Atlanta, the biggest police industrial complex in the country.
It's in Atlanta. It's called Stop Cop City.
Yeah.
Stop Cop City. They're tearing down an indigenous forest there to build the biggest complex in American history, the biggest police industrial complex. And it's even got a helipad, for Black Hawk helicopters. And they're talking about using it for models for other cities. So we've been covering that here at Status Coup. And so to talk about the crime bill when some of that money is still coming from legacy crime bill holdover is just, I don't know, pisses me off. That's all. There's
also, I mean, you're never going to hear any of these white commentators today or banks or, woke corporations that are throwing out like nice little niceties on MLK Day. You ain't going to hear them ever talk about or ever do anything. You want to talk about Biden can push a bill. Most of the corporate pollution in this country are dumped into Black and brown communities in this country. Ty, we went to East Chicago, Indiana, which is like 40 minutes from Chicago, where they had a lead smelting plant dumped on a low income project. 99%.
The projects I was raised in was built on the plant. They had to tear it down in 2008 and force everybody out of there in Compton, Ujima Village, and everybody that's from there. They know. Everybody had to move. It's just a flat land. I was just over there when I was at home during the holiday. It's just a park. It's a part of Willowbrook Park. It's called Magic Johnson Park now, but it's just part of the park, just flat land. So that's like essentially it tore down my entire childhood. You know what I'm saying? But I had homeboys that had cancer in their 20s that died. And we just thought it was just some random until we found out because they tried to sell the projects for $1 million and they would test the ground and say, oh, this isn't livable. And I've been there since we moved there in 82.
Yeah. It's literally, they pretty much have moved chemical plants, heavy metal plants, landfills, you name it, where they're dumping toxic shit or sealing toxic shit. It's dumped on the backs of Black and brown communities. Look at that. You never hear about this. A lot of the areas that they like to pontificate, Bill O'Reilly and Fox like to talk about Chicago. Well, Chicago's got some of the highest lead rates in the country. in terms of lead in the water, lead paint. You know what lead does to the human brain? Not just for black people, white people, anybody. It makes you have volatile mood swings, which could lead to crime. There's been research on this. So people aren't, some crime is because people are desperate and have no opportunity. But there's a lot of crime that happens because people have heavy metal poisoning. And that's happened in Chicago and many other. I could go down the list of other institutional, systemic, racist things that are brought to you by United Corporations of America, Joe Biden, of course, the Republicans, that you'll never hear, and they don't have a holiday for. So, we'll keep uncovering it. Any parting thoughts, my peeps, before we read Super Chat? Ty, when are you going to be hosting this week? Wednesday, 6 o'clock?
Wednesday, 6 o'clock. That's what we're gonna see if it works, because today we're off. Start back.
Yeah.
You ain't gotta mention where I work, but we start back.
I just wanted to give the audience a little behind the scenes, because I said to you, maybe a little less rambling, because you like to go on tangents, but maybe the audience likes that. I don't know. So let us know.
The audience love me once they get used to it, because what I'm gonna do, I gotta set up, as most of y'all know, his whole studio I built, right? So I'm gonna have a setup where I'm gonna be able to bring people in so we can have conversations. And because I'll be seeing the chats, I think a lot of people, I know when I watch podcasts all the time and shit like that, and I be yelling, I be wanting to say something. And so I'm gonna have it where people can hit the link and come in and then say what they want to say and debate if they want to. But no, I'm gonna do what I do, like you do what you do, and then we're gonna figure it out. If I ramble, I ramble. Period.
Well, I just tell you, maybe be a little topical, because you.
Oh yeah, no. That one time was I think I was busy or something. It was the holiday coming, so I didn't really get the focus on what I was going to talk about. So I went in there and kind of what I'm saying.
Yeah. So Ty will be live, we believe, Wednesday at 6 o'clock. Another public service announcement. Wednesday, 5 o'clock, I'll have an interview with Thomas Frank, the author of What's the Matter with Kansas? Listen Liberal, Pity the Billionaire. I've wanted to talk to him for a long time, so we'll have him Wednesday at 5 o'clock Eastern time. Tomorrow, Zaina and I will be live again at 5 o'clock Eastern. I think Steve Grumbine will be joining us.
Question, Jordan.
Yeah.
Are we going? What happened with happy hour? How you feel about that?
Well, I got a kid now, so my wife probably wouldn't like me getting drunk at 5 o'clock.
You don't have to get drunk to have happy hour. You can have a drink while we go live.
Yeah.
I remember the Friday happy hour. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we were doing it, but then there was Russia and Ukraine. I didn't think it was a good idea to be doing happy hour during a war.
No. I understand that. I'm talking about moving forward.
All right. Well, you put me on the spot in front of the audience, so I'll have to think about it.
I think they love the dynamic when, you know what I'm saying? You be talking shit. You be talking shit, and I be checking you. Yeah.
Okay. I'll have to think about that. So we got tomorrow, Zaina, myself, I think Steve Grumbine will be joining. Wednesday, Kim Brown usually hosts. She's off this week. So I'll have the interview with Thomas Frank.
Zaina, nice meeting you.
Yes.
Nice meeting you too, Ty.
Thursday, we have Ron and Tina, followed by Tina's show, Right Wing Insanity Report. Friday, maybe some drinks with Ty. We'll see. Also, reminder, put it in your calendar now. Saturday and Sunday, January 28th and 29th, we're going to have a mega weekend stream. Saturday, 12 noon to 3 o'clock Eastern time. Sunday, noon to 3 o'clock Eastern time. We're going to have Nina Turner, Marianne Williamson, Francis Fisher, who's acting in a new film about Standing Rock, Christian Small, Stephen Donziger. I got requests out to others. Oyeme, sorry, last name, Zaina?
Oleme Olorin. She's a badass.
Yeah, Oleme Olorin, she'll be on. Chuck Modi will be on. We're going to, Ty maybe will join us. Zaina, Tina, Ron. We're going to talk about 2023, politics, organizing, movement building, raise some money because Status Coup needs to raise money. Also, we're currently talking about sending Lewis to the border because there's a lot of talk about the border crisis, and I think it's mostly from a conservative / neoliberal perspective. So we want to get down there and show you what's actually going on the border. Also cover it, I think, from a leftist perspective, because what you don't hear in corporate media is why the hell these people are fleeing their countries, in large part because of what America has done to those countries, like Nicaragua, Guatemala, et cetera, et cetera. So we're going to try to send Lewis down to the border. That is expensive. We're going to have to get him a translator as well. So please support us. If you can, I know not everyone has it, but if you can support us as a member, that's our main model, statuscoup.com/join. You can become a member. El Salvador, yes. Thank you for mentioning that.
Don't forget, you got to do the super chats.
I'm gonna. You can become a member at statuscoup.com/join for as low as $5 to $10 a month. That's how we grow. That's how we fund the on the ground reporting. We also have expanded, as you can see. So Zaina, Ron, Tina, Kim, Lewis, Colin. I mean, a lot of mouths to feed, and we don't have any money from the big banks, the fossil fuckers, big pharma, big real estate, Silicon Valley, or the military-industrial complex. No sugar daddies for the Democrat or Republican Party are funding us. You're funding us. So please, if you can, support us, statuscoup.com/join. Become a member for as low as $5 a month. Also, you could go right now to statuscoup.com/donate. So that big weekend, those big weekend shows we're doing are going to be fundraising drives. So we're going to be trying to raise money. Our goal is $15,000. So far, we've raised $550 through this fundraiser. So if you can, any amount makes a difference. Statuscoup.com/donate. Statuscoup.com/donate. If you can't, totally understand. But if you can, we don't just talk the talk, we walk the walk. It's for on-the-ground reporting. As Zaina mentioned, we've been covering Cop City. I spoke with Tina about sending her to Georgia to cover the Cop City movement, which again is a protest movement to try and stop this mega police center that they would literally essentially put it right in an indigenous forest. So right now there are environmental activists and other activists protesting in a forest to stop this. So we want to send Tina there. Obviously, I'm going to get back on the ground as soon as I can. I got a 2-month-old, so it's going to take me a little bit to get back on the ground. Speaking of, I don't want to leave without showing some baby photos. Colin, if you do the honors. This is the latest member.
Oh,
this is the latest member of the community, Lily Samantha Chariton. Lily Samantha Chariton, my daughter. That's my daughter, my other daughter, Millie.
See, that's how I started.
My wife.
Tell your wife to get up. That's how I started. That's how y'all got number one.
You got to stop with that. So Millie, Lily, and Anat doing a little tummy time down there on the floor. So fatherhood is wonderful. I don't remember what sleep is, but it's definitely good. Also, public service announcement. I did today get an offer from a publisher. I don't know if I'm going to take it, but I do have one offer. So that's a step in the right direction. I've been working on a book, and I've been sending out my proposal to publishers, and I got my first offer today. We'll see if I take it. I don't want to say too much, but progress. Let me read the super chats, comments. Starred. Just Isaac, $9.99. Glad you're back. Thank you, Isaac. You talking about me or Ty?
Talking about you. Because they were commenting earlier, like, are you coming back tomorrow?
Yeah. Ethan, $5. Howdy. Thank you, Ethan. Hope you're doing well. Tony, $5. MSM will cling to the myth that MLK only cared about racism until we all die. They don't want. Then, like I said, they don't report on his economic legacy, his talk about socialism. What was that famous MLB quote too about rugged individualism? He had a famous quote. Rugged individual.
I read that earlier. I don't want to misquote him. Hold on just a second. It is, we all too often have socialism for the rich and rugged free market capitalism for the poor. But I will say that while I agree with the person who wrote the super chat, at the same time, I've been reading all kinds of articles from the right wing about how he talked about, just like they say they don't want to teach critical race theory. There's a lot of people out there saying that it wasn't his focus at all, that he wanted it, that was a secondary focus for him, racism and anti-Black oppression. So, you see it go both ways,
And by the way,
I think that's been like the major problem with this country. I think that's been a major problem why we are still talking about the same shit we've been talking about, honestly, for the past 100 years, because this country has always swept what they've done under the rug. If I'm in a relationship with a woman and I do something to offend her, let's say I cheat or I do something like that, and then I tell her, just forget about it, I ain't gonna do it again, and then she forgives me, and then I do it again, and then I say the same thing. We just sweep it under the rug. At the point they gonna blow up, she gonna blow up and leave and say something, cuss me out and do all kind of stuff because I never acknowledged what I put her through. I never acknowledged her experience and her hurt and talk to her. That's the whole thing. Even with race theory, it's about acknowledging what we've done so we can move forward. Yeah, it may take crying. It's gonna take some back and forth and all that. That's okay. That's how you heal. You know what I'm saying? You can't heal a wound by ignoring it. You cleaning that motherfucker out. You it's gonna burn a little bit, and then eventually it's gonna heal. But you gotta address it. Anytime you just try to sweep it under the rug, at a certain point, you ain't gonna be able to cover it up no more, and people gonna blow up. And that's what you see. When you see all this stuff, you see people at their ends. And a lot of times when they're at their ends and they blow up, they can go overboard, and they can do things that probably wouldn't have happened if you would have listened to them in the first place. So that's Absolutely. What we need to, that's what the theory is about. And that's why we need to teach it. You know what I'm saying? The same reason that we make sure that we teach about our history, and the reason that we celebrate, let's say, for instance, the 4th of July every year. It's because 400 years ago in 1776, motherfuckers was like, you know what? We need the people in 2022, 2023 to appreciate what we've done for us to be here. So we're gonna make sure we acknowledge it every year, because we know if we don't, throughout history, they're gonna forget about it, and then somebody gonna end up taking this country. So they understand why the importance of making sure that we teach this stuff and have them understand, so they can have appreciation from where they are, and they know what it is when you don't. And that's why they didn't.
Otherwise,
by the way,
combat the gaslighting, and that's all it is. It's gaslighting.
And by the way, just for the record, it ain't being taught. I agree. It should be taught.
Yeah, it ain't being taught.
It's not being taught.
It's not being taught.
That's a graduate level course, critical race theory. They're just making it up.
It's a course you gotta. This is what the craziest thing is, that even in college, it's something that you have to pick to take. You don't have to do that with American history. Right. And that's the whole thing. I don't give a fuck about Black History Month. What does that mean? I don't need Black History Month if you teach it all year. Like, Black History Month is a reaction to your racism. The same as Black churches. Y'all wouldn't let us in there, motherfuckers. We wanted to go. And y'all get mad about all this other shit. These are all responses to the racism of this country.
You know, I got a good topic actually for your show.
Well, you talking about the color section?
Yeah. These pastors selling out the people, like in Flint and other places.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's for sure. But yeah, that's been happening.
Yeah. All right. So Ethan, $5. Thank you very much. Tony Dallas, AOC is disciplined by the establishment. Why can't you tell us how we could insulate the squad from establishment pressure? How come she won't tell us?
How to insulate the squad from us? Oh, how to insulate them? How to keep them from having that pressure to do what they want to do versus what they like?
You know how you insulate? How you insulate yourself is you have an army behind you that has your back, that
rides with you. Yep.
Yeah, that's how you insulate yourself.
And that's up to them. And the choice
you stand on something. I'm not gonna do nothing that's not me. You know what I'm saying? If it's something that you go against, you're not going to do it. So if they really believed it, you don't need no motherfucking coaching. They some of them, not all of them, they're as bad as the ones that they've been trying to get out, bro. Because they don't stand. When you stand on something, ain't nobody got to convince me I'm a man. I ain't gonna be like, oh, I think I want to be transgender. I think you ain't got to do. This is who I am. You ain't got to do none of that. I'm gonna stand on this because this is what I believe. So when you believe in something, ain't nobody got to coach you through it.
If they stood up, they would be insulated, Ty. They would be insulated because we would have their back. But instead, they turn their back on us for this tiny little clique up there in the DC Beltway, and to rub the elbows and to get the book deals and to have the access, when they should be standing up for something. We would be insulating them. It's their choice. They ain't standing up for it. We can't insulate them.
Yeah.
They're the ones making that choice. I mean, I see where Tony's coming from, with this comment, but they're the ones that are making the decisions. They're the ones that are alienating themselves from the rest of us.
And by the way, I think people are entitled to change their mind, but you have to take people at their word. AOC is the one who said, "I'd rather be a one-term congressperson," and I'm paraphrasing, but she said, I'd rather lose and only do one term.
Sounds good.
To whatever I don't know the rest, but to get shit done.
I wrote
Sounds
that.
good.
Oh, you wrote that. So there you go.
I was just about to ask. I said, did she say that before she got elected? Of course she's gonna say what it takes to get in.
Damn, we need to make t-shirts. I did that. I wrote that.
That's what I'm saying. It sounds good, bro. Like I said, when you stand on something, you ain't. This is what I believe. But a lot of them don't believe it, and that's where we get where we are. Because if you believe it and you stand on it, you're gonna see how many people will insulate you. You don't see how many people had your back. The same amount of motherfuckers that thought you couldn't get in office that allowed you to get in office. You don't think they got the same power while you're in office?
I got to speed through this because I'm a half hour over. Fly Chomper Fly, $2. Love the group discussion. Rock on. Love Fly Chomper Fly. She's great. Ethan, $5. Jordan, do you remember meeting me at the Bern, Iowa caucus? I got to be honest with you, Ethan. I don't remember a lot of things these days. No, I don't. But I'm sure you were terrific, and thank you for the super chat.
You ain't give no description of who you are. He met like 100 people there.
You want a little behind the scenes? My mother tells me, you could call your mother a little more. I say, what do you mean call you a little more? You call me 5 times a day to FaceTime the baby. I need to call you too? I said, I'm doing behind the scenes stuff for work. I was on paternity leave, but as Zaina could tell you, I was still involved with the company. I'm writing a book. I got multiple book deadlines to submit to publishers, and I need to call you two. So yeah, we got into it. Anyway, I love you, Mom.
I love you too. I miss you. I haven't seen you in a minute.
Joanne, $25. This is why I pay attention to Status Coup coverage. Well, I'm glad. Thank you. Yeah, if Zaina will join, we'll have Zaina on as much as we can. As you've noticed over the past couple of months, we're trying to expand. Kim Brown, Ron, Tina. Tina does a great show, Right Wing Insanity Report. I don't really think there's anything out there like it. She does great in-depth interviews on extremism, the growth of fascism, white supremacy. She interviews kind of recovering, I guess you could say, people who used to be neo-Nazis and in these extremist groups, but now found their way out of it. So that airs Thursdays right after the live stream at 6:00 Eastern. Steve Grumbine, Let's Get Ready to Grumble. That airs Sundays at 5:00. So we're doing a lot of great things, and unfortunately, YouTube is not recommending or showing a lot of it. So that's where all of you come in. I still believe in word of mouth. If you could spread the coup, you could tell your friends, whether they're progressive or not. It doesn't really matter. I think a lot of the things we cover cross lines and are just humanistic issues, water and human rights and labor and workers' rights and police brutality. I think this crosses across, conservatives care about clean water. I think libertarians care about, a lot of things we talk about. So you don't just have to be like a hardcore tree hugging lefty to watch Status Coup. And like I said, not that we're the only people that ever go out there and report on the ground, but I don't know anyone that's doing it more than us with very little resources. So again, thank you for the super chats. Thank you to our members. If you can become a member, I'm not beyond begging. Sign up. We need you. StatusCoup.com/join. Teresa, $5 super sticker. Thank you, Teresa. AI, $10. Welcome back, Jordan. Great panel discussion. Thank you, AI. Fly Chomper Fly. Go Zaina. $2.
Yeah, Zaina got that energy. For sure.
She's got that Appalachian energy. Leslie Wheeler, $5. Congratulations, Jordan. The hubby and I aren't getting any sleep either. We just had our daughter too. She's 1.5 months. Our kids are almost the same age. You know what it is? I don't love like having to wake up twice in the middle of the night, but that you kind of get used to. The hard part is the day, because I love her, so I'm not complaining, but my wife is doing so much. If you're a woman, breastfeeding and pumping and so many and other things. So I'm trying to help out, but my baby doesn't quite sleep during the day and she likes to be held. So once I hold her, she's calm, but as soon as I put her down, she's crying again. So I'm trying to like work and type and research and respond to texts, but she's crying. So that's the tricky part. But
this is what you do, bro.
Parenting tips from Ty.
You gotta, okay. I'm telling you, obviously I know. You gotta wing her off, bro. All kids are gonna do that. She'll get used to laying down and stop crying, but you gotta allow her to cry herself to sleep. But if you don't, you're gonna continue to do it and she's just gonna keep doing it.
You could tell my wife that.
Tell her
she's crying for 20 seconds. It's an emergency.
I know it's your baby. I know, and I know your wife, and I know she's putting a 2 on the 10 with the emergency too. But it's your baby, and I know you love her, and it's new. But listen, it'll help y'all out. Just every now and again, let her cry. She'll stop. Give her a little toy or something, or give her. She can't use a pacifier right now, huh?
She does. Yeah.
Okay, and she'll get used to that, and then it'll be that thing that she wants to make her stop crying versus y'all picking her up. Like Trey went through that, and outside of my son, like I've been with women with kids, like babies, and still had to do the exact same thing. Like that, you just gotta like go through that process. But right now, that's y'all first baby, y'all love her, and y'all ain't even probably trying to let her go. So it's understandable. But if that's what you want to do, that's like a good tip.
Absolutely.
Also, it's okay to say that you're tired. It's okay to say things are damn hard. You don't have to preface it with "I love them," because
we know you love them, of course.
You love them, but I've got a 13-year-old now. She's 13, so she's got that 13-year-old attitude, and she's super smart. So it's hard, But parenting is hard. But welcome to the club, Jordan. All of a sudden, some of the issues you're going to want to talk about are going to start shifting just a little bit as you start doing the parenting thing. I think on some, you'll start seeing the things. But
well, it was also a little tricky to keep it a secret when I was on the road, because it's not easy traveling when your wife's far along. Obviously, I wanted to be home to help her, and then you got people. I was wearing a mask, and apparently that's a triggering thing for some people in the world. Yeah, I didn't want to get COVID and bring it home to my pregnant wife, So it wasn't
people.
Yeah,
you should be able to do what you want to do, and they can do what they want to do. Why they mad at you that you got one? You ain't mad at them if they don't got one.
So when I was out covering when Amazon won the union victory,
I was there. I was there. I was with you.
No, you weren't. No, that was somebody else. And you were there?
I was there, bro. Yeah.
So were you there when
AOC came and all that?
No, different. So I was there. I was out outside. They had just come out. They won that day, and this woman's like pointing at me, like, "Pull down your mask," and I just ignored it. But then I'm live, like, kind of trying to wrap up the show, and she's like starting to shout, "Take off your mask! You look ridiculous!" And I fucking flipped out at this lady. I said, "Is there something wrong with you? Yeah. What's it to you?" And I dropped a couple words. Yeah,
that's good. She deserved that.
Yeah, there's some people that are kind of crazy. Anyway, but I'm back as best as I can be. I'm not going to be live every single day, but I'll be live as much as I can. I'm also writing a book, so as soon as I do land, hopefully, a deal with a publisher, and they give me a deadline to finish the book, there'll be a lot of book writing, so I'll be in and out, but I'm definitely back more so than I've been recently. And we just need to grow this thing. As best as I could say it, there's a whole lot of channels on the left, on the right, everywhere in between that they cover a lot of interpersonal stuff, and they cover a lot of or do a lot of reacting to things and reactionary stuff and food fights and basically a lot of conflict and drama. There's not a lot of them doing actual substantive stories, interviews on working class issues, environmental issues, protest movements, because that shit is not sexy on YouTube. YouTube's algorithm actually deliberately buries that stuff, like real substantive news, particularly from independent media. So it would behoove me to do more of that popcorn worthy food fighting, but I need to sleep at night and I don't want to do that stuff. So it's really up to our audience to help us and spread the word to get this out to more people. Like Zaina said, one thing you could do, sign up to our Substack. That's statuscoup.substack.com. You can sign up for free. There's also a paid option, but signing up for free at least will get you our Substack. Once we post, an email goes out. And why that's important is it's kind of like a reinforcement if YouTube doesn't send you a notification for when we're live, or if YouTube, like a lot of times they like to notify you 20 minutes after we're live or an hour after we're live. You'll get the Substack notification before we go live. And if you're not seeing it, check your spam. Also, make sure, this is very important, Colin, if you could show this, make sure next to the subscribe button, there is a bell. Click the bell. Make sure you're signed up for all notifications. But that's step one. Unfortunately, YouTube makes you do a lot. So make sure you sign up for all notifications, but also make sure on your phone, make sure that you have notifications enabled from YouTube. Because if you sign up for all notifications, but on your phone, if you don't have, like in the settings, there's a tab for notifications, at least on iPhone. I don't know about Android. You got to make sure that you have it clicked on for notifications, because I looked on our back end and when we don't have a high percentage that have opted in for all notifications and have it enabled on their phone. So that is unfortunate if you want to know when we're live and you want to watch, but you don't have it enabled. So I'll have Colin. What's that?
FYI, that it could be irritating. So like for me, I have my notifications on, but I'm subscribed to so many podcasts. My notifications go off about 30 times, 3 different times of the day. I think it's like maybe 12, 5, and then 8. You just get all these. So just be okay with that.
Well, turn off every other notification but Status.
Turn off every other one. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, that, and if you sign up for Substack, it'll come in your email so you can check in. And we're going to start trying to make announcements earlier so that you guys know, what we might be talking about a little bit earlier. Because like what Ty said, I sometimes got to turn mine off too. If I'm doing like work or like right now, mine are turned off because I'm here, so they ain't thinking on me. But the Substack, and then we'll be having some articles and stuff coming out in the Substack too, maybe some investigative pieces, some of those kind of pieces you got a FOIA for, Freedom of Information Act request for, or good interviews, things like that, transcribed on there. So please sign up for Substack and support us at Status Coup. What is it? /join?
statuscoup.com/join. And why that's so important is at the end of the day, I mean, people say, Jordan, stop asking for money. I don't know if you think money grows, like you think I got a money tree somewhere. It costs at minimum to send me and a cameraman on the road. You're talking $2 to $3 grand. And that's like not staying in nice places. If we're driving, gas is still high in most places. It costs money to do that. We're also talking right now amongst us about getting another live view. Live view is the satellite, basically the mobile satellite we use to go live. The one we got, it took 2 years. We got one. It cost 25 grand for the top of the line one. The one we're talking about getting is a little less, but so that we have more reporters that are able to go live around the country, because right now it's with me on the East Coast. So that stuff costs money, and we don't have George Soros or the Koch brother. They ain't giving us money. The Democrats, the Republicans, they ain't giving us money. So anything you could do, because no disrespect to people who just do commentary. Obviously, I respect a lot of them, but it is a lot We have a much higher overhead than they do because of the on-the-ground reporting. So what you're contributing is actually going for us to travel and be on the ground, plus the equipment. Plus, there's a lot of I don't want to bore you, but there's a lot of fixed costs per month. Like we usually send out a text when we're live. We're not doing that right now because it costs us $500 to $600 a month just to send out a text.
That's a lot for us, you guys. I don't want to because that sounds like y'all spent 500 on that's a lot for the Status Coup budget. That ain't so I had to weigh if that was even helping or not.
Yeah.
Hey, Jordan, look up myself. Myself. Put that up. 717.
Myself.
Yeah, that's the person. That's the yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
No, yeah. Look at the top.
Oh, good.
Oh, that's
fuck
funny.
you. Fuck
That's
you,
funny.
fuck.
That is not okay, man.
That's funny, though.
I just
That is
Googled.
funny.
I just Googled myself.
That's funny.
That's offensive.
That's
Anyway,
funny though.
thank you, everybody. We'll be back 5 o'clock Eastern. Oh, also a reminder if you missed it, we're doing more YouTube shorts, and they're not just 1-minute clips from our live stream. We're doing more original YouTube shorts, which are the 1-minute videos. It's on a different column on the homepage. So if you go to the homepage that has the live section, it has the video section and the short section. We're doing, I think we posted 3 or 4 today. We'll have more tomorrow. It's actually like a different algorithm. So we're hoping that if we could get some more views on these shorts, that it will bring new eyeballs to the channel overall. So definitely click on the YouTube shorts. We're not going to just do 1-minute cat videos. They're going to be original content. YouTube shorts, and click on the ones we're doing. Comment, all that stuff.
And
Thank you, Ty.
statistically, it's way more white people on welfare than it is black people. Get your shit together and fuck your mama too. Go ahead.
That's 100% accurate. It's far more. But there ain't nothing wrong. I'm on EBT right now because I didn't have a job, and I lost my home, and the person I was renting from sold it, and I was only 10 days, so they evicted me. So not only did I have to move in with a friend recently because of an eviction, I'm on EBT, and I still can't qualify for Medicare or Medicaid because you got to have a job to get it. There ain't nothing wrong.
Ain't nothing wrong with it. During COVID, I was on it.
Welfare ain't reparations. That ain't it.
You ain't got to explain to him. He's obviously being an asshole. You ain't got to explain to him.
Being a smart ass.
He mad. He mad because his wife cheating on him. It's all good. Don't let me catch him.
You sound like you got some personal beef.
I don't know who he is. I thought it was funny, but he a sucker though.
Come on, man.
Oh, you got the little sound effects?
Yeah.
What did you put it on? What do you have? Stream Deck?
Not a joke.
What are you using? Stream Deck?
I don't know. Colin did it.
Okay, sure.
Hold on. Let me got the cash register.
But I have to say we're capitalist, and that's just the way it is.
Got Nancy.
They're losers. They're just losers. They're losers.
We got
for lack of a better word, is good.
I really mean it. I genuinely mean it. I really mean it.
and I think my favorite is hold on.
Enough is enough.
So we'll get some more in there too. All right. Thanks everybody. I'll see you back here tomorrow, 5 o'clock Eastern. Have a good night.